A lot of fun things coming in 2024. The most fun, though, things are shaping up for Kyler Murray to absolutely explode during the 2024 NFL season.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner _. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Been working in sports radio in Phoenix since 2011, hosting this beautiful podcast since 2017. Thank you for being a part of this iteration of my career here. Remember, every day is what makes this world go round. Kyler Murray, he hasn't been discussed a lot. A lot of draft, a lot of offseason before then with free agency and things like that. Monti Ossenfort getting his flowers, Jonathan Gannon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kyler Murray hasn't gotten a dedicated podcast in a while. He's getting that today. I'm going to end the podcast with things Kyler Murray must not do in 2024. Preceding that, what Kyler Murray must do in 2024. All of that encapsulating the thought that Kyler Murray is going to absolutely explode back onto the scene in 2024. There's a couple different reasons why I think that. While it's not the most outlandish of thoughts, people still have their questions surrounding Kyler Murray. I'm going to do my best part to put those to rest. The first thing, Kyler Murray, with him specifically, he's been a polarizing guy. Okay, Dan Patrick interview before getting drafted. Cliff Kingsbury, failed experiment, demonstrative, not really a leader, not great during interviews, incredible on the field at times. That was kind of the envelopment of his first 5 seasons. Now, what makes me think Kyler Murray is going to explode in 2024, a couple different things. One, it's the best offensive line he's had. You got to start there. It's the best offensive line he's had. One of the things that I used to say over and over and over again was the best offensive line the Arizona Cardinals have is Kyler Murray's legs, because he'd be able to elude any sort of, somebody coming after his head because the offensive line wasn't great. That's not the case anymore, at least on paper. It's gotten better than it was last year, which is a win. And we'll see how Isaiah Adams plays in the left guard spot. We'll see Jonah Williams, etc. But that's number one. That's the most important thing. While it's not as flashy, keeping Kyler Murray's jersey clean on game day is the most important thing by a long shot. It allows him to read through the progressions now with wide receivers. It allows him to see the dump down possibilities with now 2 backs who are proficient at catching the ball to the backfield. And it allows him the time to find Trey McBride, who's going to be the number 1 option in the pass game start season. And also, it allows him to play his game in a natural way without that, fight or flight where it's just like, oh, got to get out of the pocket. It's collapsing like that. And then while he thrives at times like that, out of the pocket, throwing on the go or running when it's man coverage, if he could stay in the pocket and just pick defenses apart, that's a win. That's number 1, why I think Kyler Murray is going to absolutely explode in 2024. Number 2, and you're going to see this as maybe like, wait, why is that number 2 and not number 3? Because the run game is going to be stronger than it's been since Chris Johnson and David Johnson in 2015? Trey Benson is an adult running back who's going to be making an impact right away. James Conner is a top 12 running back in the league. James Conner is one of the best inside the red zone. James Conner is one of the best yards per carry. James Conner is a big man in the backfield. So you've got 2 guys with an improved offensive line, with Drew Petzing, who knows how to run the ball. And then you've got guys like Amari DiMercato and DJ Dallas and, Michael Carter behind him. They've got a bevy of running backs. They will be recession-proof with running backs. And why does that directly correlate to Kyler Murray exploding? Because it allows him to not be going against the defense that knows he's going to have to throw the ball 35 times for them to win. It's not a recipe for success. It's just not. So Kyler Murray will be able to run the offense that he ran for a handful of games last year with an elevated offensive line, an elevated run attack, which opens up everything else. The Cardinals, they were stacking 8 against the box against the Cardinals towards the tail end of last year, and they ran a rush shot all over everybody. Imagine what it would be like with an elevated group of a different order. Reason number 3, the wide receiver and pass-catching group may be, and this is, I say may and not is, may be the best collection of wide receivers that Kyler Murray has had since coming to the NFL. And that's including the years with DeAndre Hopkins. And the reason why it includes that is because DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown never played football together. So we never knew. So when you look at the improved offensive line, the much improved running back room, on top of Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, and Greg Dortch, Zay Jones, the Cardinals have an embarrassment of riches on paper going into this season. Kyler Murray spoke to the media yesterday, and he looks like a seasoned veteran. He gets it now. And because he was able to grow as a person, as a leader, and as a football player, more in the last 18 months than he did in the first 4 years of his career combined. And it's obvious because he finally has a group of leaders, coaches, and front office members who know how to lead players and teach players and coach players and make players feel safe and build a family. Kyler Murray is in the best situation by far that he's been in his entirety of an NFL quarterback in the first 5 seasons. So people are like, well, he's entering year 6. Obviously, he's got to be great. Look at people give Trevor Lawrence that pass for Urban Meyer. Imagine if Urban Meyer was a head coach for 4 seasons. The offensive line, much improved. The running back group, much improved. The pass catching group is probably the best that he's had. And on top of all of that, the defense is going to be better. And this is the weakest of the list because the margin is still pretty thin. But if Garrett Williams and Bijah Ojulari take that next step, and Kazir White places himself as the heart of this defense in the middle, and Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson still continue to do what they do, and if Max Melton and Elijah Jones, if one of them pop, Darius Robinson, Bilal Nichols, like the ceiling can be shattered in 2024 for the Cardinals. They have a tough schedule. The learning curve is going to be steeper on defense. But this defense can and may be a huge step up from last year, which kind of rounds the circle out to my thoughts that Kyler Murray is going to absolutely explode in 2024. There are a couple musts that Kyler Murray must do in 2024 for him to explode. One, he's got to build a connection with Marvin Harrison Jr. right away. What are the others? Discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Kyler Murray is going to explode in 2024. The offensive line is better. The run game is better. The pass catching group is better, and the defense is better. Plus, he's a year older, a full year under Drew Petzing's system. That's kind of like an honorable mention because it's obvious, and it was going to happen regardless of who they drafted or whatever. Kyler Murray is going to be more comfortable, one full offseason healthy, and then being able to hopefully ride the coattails from last season where, Cardinals look pretty good. The offense looked pretty good, all things considered, down the stretch. The things that Kyler Murray must do in 2024, a couple in short order, and one is more, for the entire season. One, that rapport with Marvin Harrison Jr. needs to be immediate. And by immediate, I mean as quick and organically possible. They're going to have a lot of reps this offseason. I'm sure there's going to have a lot of off-the-field stuff. They're going to be able to have that rapport more quickly because Marvin Harrison Jr., and I've said this in past episodes, past recent episodes, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be the third option to come starting out the gate. He's in a great situation. He's in a great system where he doesn't have to be wide receiver one. It's Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison, or it's nothing else. They're going to run the ball with James Conner. They're going to find Trey McBride. Greg Dortch is probably going to be an integral part. Kyler Murray had glowing things to say about Greg Dortch. He goes, if he's 6'3", he's a star. If he's 6'3", he's a Pro Bowl. He's unguardable, is what Kyler Murray said. So they feel very, very comfortable with their wide receiver room, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is initially going to be a cog in that, but not the only top-heavy person in that room that's going to be able to produce. Zay Jones has played many years of meaningful snaps. Michael Wilson's healthy. Greg Dortch is finally going to get his shot. But having said that, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray cannot have that 5 or 6 game stretch early in the season where they're still trying to feel each other out. It's going to be made easier because Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to have bracketed coverage every time he lines up. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to have more one-on-one coverage. I'm sure the packages with Drew Petzing he's going to have Greg Dortch in the slot with Marvin Harrison Jr. on the outside on the same side of the field, keeping backers and corners honest. They're going to be able to run the ball very effectively, you would think, to be able to keep opposing secondaries honest. So the ecosystem for Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. to build that rapport and build that cohesion early is more simple than ever before for Kyler Murray in the NFL. Easier than DeAndre Hopkins, easier than any other ones. But it's a rookie. He's a rookie, and it's going to take a little time, you would think, to get acclimated in the NFL. The rapport needs to be there immediately. That's one. Two, this is kind of, I got to throw it in here because got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. Never in his NFL career has there been a better opportunity for Kyler to play all 17 weeks than this season. Improved offensive line, running the ball, less time with him in the open field past the line of scrimmage, dodging 11 defenders in an effort to move the ball down the field because none of the other offensive options work. This is different, and that's beneficial. They're going to be able to run the ball. One thing, when I say Kyler Murray is going to absolutely explode, doesn't mean he's going to have 5,000 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 1,000 yards rushing, and 15 touchdowns on the ground. Kyler Murray's explosion is predicated and going to be gauged solely upon him putting this team in a position to succeed and win-loss record. It's not going to be he needs to have 50 total touchdowns. Ask Josh Allen how it works. Great, you make the playoffs. Cool. Ask Joe Burrow when he had that blowout year. Ask Jalen Hurts. Sure, they've gotten a lot further in the postseason and things like that. The teams were already made. I mean, this is a different thing. The Cardinals were starting 26 miles behind everybody in the 26.2 mile marathon. 26.2. I haven't been in school for a while. Kyler Murray needs to stay healthy. That's a must. Number 3. Kyler Murray needs to play the hits. And what I mean by that is there were times, 2021, 2022 first half, it's really all we can gauge at this point because that was when, he was comfortable in the offense when the offense wasn't great, but you can't really gauge the last 4 or 5 games of last season. If Trey McBride is going to be open, you throw the ball him 17 times in a game. If Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be open, you throw the ball 17 times a game. If Greg Dortch is torching people, you throw the ball to him 10, 12 times a game, depending on the game, things like that. Like what Kyler Murray hasn't done during chunks of his career is find the best player. When he does, it's DeAndre Hopkins, 16 targets, 14 catches, 140 and a touchdown. We've seen that. But there are times where you see DeAndre Hopkins getting one target in the first quarter when they were on the field for 8 minutes. It's like, what are we doing here? I feel like, and this definitely is offensive scheme, but I feel like using your best players as decoys more than actually throwing them the ball, even if they're in, bracketed coverage with a safety spy, let your best players do their job. Trey McBride is 6'3", 6'4", 255. He's a wide receiver, and you throw him the rock. Marvin Harrison Jr., this is going to be, in unison with my first point from this segment. That trust is going to have to be there. Christian Kirk and Kyler Murray had fantastic trust. With Kyler Murray would throw the ball to a spot, whether it be the pylon, whether it be right beyond the sticks on the sideline, where Christian Kirk would have to tiptoe and catch and get out of bounds. That, with a 6'3" receiver who has the trajectory of being the best receiver we've seen in a decade, potentially. That's where the rapport needs to be. And if it continues to work, you give him 15 targets, 17 targets, doesn't matter. That's one thing. And I think that with coaching and everything like that with this system, it's like, okay, well, it's all about exposing weakness for the opposing defenses. Opposing offenses do that to the Cardinals all the time, whether it be running the ball or when Brandon Williams was corner or whatever it is. Marco Wilson, you expose that weakness over and over and over again. And while Kyler Murray has done it at times, and he did it in chunks, that needs to be the game plan. Find it, expose it, and don't stop until they figure it out. And that could be running the ball too, which isn't, obviously directly tied to Kyler Murray. But that's one thing that needs to take that 0-1 jump, because then that's one thing where Cardinals become problems for opposing teams. Oh, man, nobody can stop Trey McBride. They tried, they schemed, and then once they actually adjust, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., you got two running backs out of the backfield, you got Zay Jones, you got Michael Wilson, you got Greg Dortch. That's where you're able to crack opposing defenses. And while Kyler Murray has kept teams in games, he's been fantastical, many times over the last 5 seasons. Being able to find the weakness and exploit it constantly, that's one step that he's going to have to take this year and just force it in. I'd much rather him force it into Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride than, throw a deep ball to Zay Jones or Michael Wilson. It's just like, and obviously things can change, things can shift. We'll see what the camaraderie is like and the rapport's like in 2024 with this wide receiver group. But they've got to expose opposing teams' weaknesses a lot more powerfully than they have, in Kyler Murray's career so far. And then the last thing that Kyler Murray must do, he must find that pass or run sweet spot. And he's done the majority of time. He's done this well. The majority of time he's done this well. The stakes are higher than they've ever been this year. Even though they had a better team in 2021 with veterans and things like that, they won 7-0, 10-2. Everything he does is going to be under a national microscope now. They're not going to be, quote unquote, deep playoff run relevant in 2024. But this is the jumping off point. This is the springboard. This is the diving board. And Kyler Murray can no longer regress. And not to say he has, but he hasn't really taken that leap. For him to explode in 2024, all of those things that I mentioned must happen. What must Kyler Murray not do? One of them, throw bad interceptions across the middle. I'll discuss the others as we finish up here. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by Bird Gang Travel Club. Marv catching TDs from K1 in South Beach, you could be there. James Conner doing a Lambeau leap against, with all of those Green Bay fans in Green Bay, you could be there. All day trade making big play after big play week 1 in Buffalo in front of Bills Mafia. You could be there with Bird Gang Travel Club. Bird Gang Travel Club provides the best and only fan travel experience for Cardinals road games. We're talking anywhere from 50 to 500 fans on a given trip. So it's a huge family that they provide for people on the road. This season, they're hitting Buffalo week 1, Green Bay week 6, and Miami week 8. Packages include top-notch hotel stays for 3 or 4 nights, lower-level game tickets, currently row 5 or closer in Buffalo. If you want to go to Orchard Park, they've got you covered. Parties each night with open bar and appetizers, unique fan tours of Lambeau Field and the Niagara Falls, souvenir trip patch, State 48 trip shirts, and more. Visit birdgang.com to see all the packages today. Payment plans are available. Like, that's key. Sometimes maybe you can't do it all up front. Tyler and the guys over there at Bird Gang Travel Club, they're there to facilitate. They want to get as many Cardinals fans out there. They're here to help you. And you can sign up. If you sign up by June 23rd, you can receive a signed Paris Johnson Jr. mini helmet for anyone in your package. I don't know how it can get much better than that. Use the code LOCKEDON to receive a bonus signed mystery mini helmet or football from a current Cardinals player or alumni while supplies last. Bird Gang Travel Club. Check them out. All right. Kyler Murray. Oh, Kyler Murray. We've been waiting. We've discussed this time. Oh, week 1, 2024. Giddy up. Let's see. Sure. There's some people who don't think Kyler Murray's the guy. Sure. There are people who think that Kyler Murray was the reason why Cliff Kingsbury got fired. And sure, Kyler Murray's not perfect. What Kyler Murray has shown up until this point in his career are more than enough, quote, oh my God moments that would lend me and many others to believe that with the right coaching, the right culture, the right talent, and the right ecosystem, Kyler Murray could absolutely be looked at as a top 8 quarterback in the league. The things that Kyler Murray must not do in 2024 to be able to explode back onto the scene and make the Cardinals relevant maybe sooner than people expect. The over-the-middle, back foot, sailing interceptions to safeties, usually safeties. Now, some of these in his career have been like punts where it's 3rd and 15, and he's hucking it down the field to Hollywood Brown or Christian Kirk or whoever it is, and it ends up being an interception. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the ones, unobstructed, where Kyler Murray has time in the pocket and he just sails his wide receiver or tight end because they're not on the right page or because he misread coverage and it just drops into the belly of an opposing DB. Those can't happen anymore. Kyler Murray was so good early on in his career at throwing the ball away. He took sacks a lot more than he should have because he didn't want to turn the ball over. I think him and Russell Wilson one year were towards the top. I can't remember if it was 2019 or 2020. It was 2020. The over-the-middle sailed throw interception are absolute killers. What Kyler Murray must not do in 2024 is be the reason the Cardinals lose a game. And that's it. Well, that's not fair. He's human. He's a quarterback. He's going to throw, he's going to turn the ball over. Sure. Quarterbacks do that. Putting the defense in bad situations, those are judgment decisions. Sure. Maybe snap judgments, maybe tip balls. I'm not talking about, things that are out of his control. Throws a ball, goes right through a wide receiver's hand. Those things happen. 3rd and 8 on your own 10. 3rd and 5 on your own 10 when it's passing down and you sail a crossing route. A linebacker picks it off and now the opposing team is in the red zone. Can't happen. Can't happen. The Cardinals cannot be their own worst enemy in 2024 if this is going to work. And for a large portion of, Kyler Murray's tenure, they have been, not directly with him specifically, but they have been. And I think Drew Petzing's offense is going to help a lot with this. But that's one thing that Kyler Murray must not do in an effort to absolutely explode in 2024. Another thing Kyler Murray must not do is force the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. While I said, if you listen to the last segment, which I'm hoping you did, thank you, Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr.'s rapport must be immediate is true. Luckily, as I mentioned, they've got two other options who are going to be higher on the depth chart offensively than Marvin Harrison Jr., to start the season. One thing that cannot be done is, Marvin's got to be the guy. I got to throw him the ball when it's 50-50 one way or the other. You cannot force stardom by forcing balls into double coverage just because he's Marvin Harrison Jr. The Cardinals drafted him number 4 overall. I'm not saying he'll do this. I'm not saying this is something that he's done in the past. It's going to be a balance. And Kyler Murray must build the rapport, do the work, build the cohesion during the offseason, and be prepared for week 1, regardless of who they play. They got a murderer's row early on. First 7 weeks are brutal. Doesn't matter. Forcing the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. is not the answer. Now, if he proves, okay, well, the Cardinals got to steal at 4, and he's able to, withstand the double coverage and all of the eyes being on him, and he's just that great, fine. It's a different conversation where it would lend more to you must play the hits. If he goes from rookie to must play the hits, it's a different conversation. Forcing it right out the gate just to do it, that's how turnovers happen. That's how an offense becomes imbalanced. And that's something that can't happen. That's another version of the Cardinals shooting themselves in the foot. And then the final one. And these are very close between must and must not. I said Kyler Murray must figure out the balance between running and passing this year. When to take his chances. Kyler Murray, while I've discussed on this show so many times that the best offense for the Cardinals is the rush attack being in the top 10 and Kyler Murray's numbers plummeting. That means James Conner, Trey Benson, Michael Carter, DJ Dallas, Tony Jones, and Marty Mercado, whoever it is flourishing. And Drew Petzing's offense is pumping. Kyler Murray must not be afraid to take those chunk yards when given to him. The runner that you want Kyler Murray to be, there's 3. One was a little bit more proficient with running the ball, but they were usually for large chunks. Is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson could rip 30 yards. You're like, whoa, what just happened? Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are kind of in the same group where it's like, 3rd and 9, man coverage. You wait, you're off. And then you get right past the 6, you go right out of bounds. Somewhere in between that, if Kyler Murray's there, he must not be scared to take the chunk yards. And he hasn't been. But with all of these weapons, a lot of times quarterbacks are more apt to throw the ball. Like, oh, look, I got a guy down here. I got a guy down here. But when it's 3rd and 6, and you got a linebacker right in front of you where you're one juke away from getting a first down and sliding, it's imperative. So when you have the 2, and I'll take the last minute and a half to discuss this, when you have Marvin Harrison Jr., rapport must be built right away, and you can't force the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., those will be tied together this year. That balance needs to be there. And then with running the ball, he must figure out the balance between running and passing, and he must not be scared to run the ball to take that chunk yardage when he does now have all of these weapons. It'll be very fascinating, but again, I do in closing and in summation here. Kyler Murray's absolutely going to explode in 2024, and I'm so excited to see it. Alex Lancey, Locked on Cardinals. Remember, without you, there is no me. I will talk to you on Monday.